The best of money matters. Wealth Tracker.
Welcome to the Wealth Tracker, where we dive into the uncharted territories of niche investment strategies that promise to redefine wealth. Hello, I'm Hongbin Jeong. Now, it looks like Singaporean investors are moving away from local stocks, seeking quicker gains and better liquidity in global markets. Now, this trend is supported by data. Tiger Broker Singapore reports an 11 percentage point drop in Singapore stock trading over the last 4 years, while iFast Corporation saw 43% of client investments flow into U.S. markets in 2024, up from 29% in 2019. Similarly, a Moomoo Singapore survey shows that nearly half of Singapore investors are looking to increase their international exposure. Interactive Brokers also reports a growing interest amongst investors in Singapore in global markets. So as more investors flock to U.S. stocks and other global assets, local stocks, often get overlooked. But why? Is the Singapore stock market as bad as it's made out to be? Well, to find out more, joining me now is Dan Chang, who is the investment specialist and trading representative at PhillipCapital. Dan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Hongbin. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. All right, Dan, what could be some factors driving Singaporean retail investors away from local stocks?
Well, I think it all comes down to perspective. When you compare the Singapore market to the US and Hong Kong market, it's a bit slow-moving and lacking in excitement, especially in terms of price volatility. This can be a turn-off for investors who are after more aggressive capital gains.
Right.
Plus, there are many high-profile names on SGX like we see in the US or Hong Kong. I mean, outside of our three local banks, perhaps Singtel, SIA, and maybe a few big REITs. Many retail investors may not be as familiar as other major stocks on the SGX as well. As for mid to long, right, they often get the reputation of having low trading volume, which make it harder for investors to jump in and out of position quickly. So I think this could be some of the factors that put investors off our local market.
I see. Well, Singaporean retail investors, they are moving their investments to foreign markets, particularly the U.S. What are they finding more appealing in these overseas markets?
Well, I think globalization plays a huge role in this shift. In recent years, right, we are seeing more international brokerage platforms making their way into the local scene, which means that, investors now have easier access to foreign markets like the U.S., the Hong Kong, or even China market through the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, or rather the Hong Kong Stock Connect. I mean, what is even better is that the barrier to entry for investors has been lowered with lower transaction fee and fewer hurdles to cross. Now, even like, for example, the account application for a trading account is so much easier now. I mean, investors just need to, open an account via their SingPass and have it done in less than 10 minutes. Yeah. So that could be one reason.
I see. But I mean, Dan, the Singapore market has had its successes. The benchmark STI, rose 17% in 2024 and hit a record high just in January, boosted particularly by banks. And today they're having a rally as well. So is it really the case that the local stock market has no redeeming features and everyone should be looking elsewhere for decent investing opportunities?
Well, I think it all points down to perception. While it's true SGX stocks do lack, the excitement and the liquidity, dismissing the entire market will be a mistake. Okay, like any exchange, right, there will be some David stocks, okay, but there are also hidden gems and quality companies that have proved that they can deliver good returns. So the Singapore market, right, isn't just about the three banks. Although they have undoubtedly been leading the charge for the past 1 year or so. But beyond that, right, we have seen strong performance from companies like ST Engineering, Yang Zhejiang Shipbuilding, and SGX among the big caps. And these are all solid business with very strong fundamentals, and they have proven their resilience in both good times and bad. And among the small to big cap, right, we have also seen companies like Oitech, Bumi Tamak Agriculture, and Centurion, just to name a few, that have been quietly delivering impressive gains over the past 1 year or so, I would say, and yet they remain underappreciated by many investors. So I think the key point, right, in my opinion, is this. SGX tend to reward those who look beyond the obvious. While global markets offer excitement, right, I think SGX do have this mix of stability, yield and growth opportunity, all of which can play an important role in, constructing a well-balanced portfolio.
I see. Well, given the recent highs in the STI as well, is there an optimistic outlook for the Singapore market? Are valuations still attractive, and will dividend yields remain appealing for long-term investors?
Yes, I believe so. And personally, I'm quite positive about it. As mentioned, right, the STI 70% surge in 2024 was driven mainly by the banks, which benefit largely from huge high interest rates and strong earnings. While rate cuts may or may not slow bank earning growth in 2025, other sectors like defense, aviation, and renewable energy, right, could continue to perform well. As for S-REIT, one of the asset class that Singapore is being famous for, they have been weighed down by high interest rates, and we could just see a recovery as interest rates start to stabilize, making them even more appealing for investors who are looking for yield, as they are still consistently paying out dividends that are relatively higher than most stocks. And on the defensive side of things, right, if there were to be any adverse news event going forward in 2025, Singapore relatively stable economy, their AAA credit rating and strong institutional interest may also support the market long-term resilience.
I see. Well, one key challenge retail investors have highlighted is the lack of credible and engaging content guiding them on investment decisions in the Singapore market, as you also mentioned earlier in our conversation. So what do you think are the biggest opportunities in the Singapore market right now? Which sectors or asset classes should investors be looking at for greater returns?
Well, this U.S. President Donald Trump may not be a big supporter or big fan of renewables energy. They have this slogan, drill, baby, drill. I believe Singapore is taking a very different approach. Singapore has been actively positioning herself as a regional green finance hub, trying to attract capital for ESG investments. So, we just have to look at the recent initiative, the Singapore Green Plan 2030 and, the Net Zero initiative by 2050. So, Singapore is going into this direction of clean energy, renewable, and all the green. And although Singapore has very limited natural renewable energy source, right, we are seeing, things like solar panels being aggressively deployed across rooftop, reservoirs, and now we even have a floating solar farm. So, given this development, right, I believe renewable energy is a sector that is worth keeping an eye on in the Singapore city.
I see. Then should investors stick to, the blue chip companies such as banks, or should they consider diversifying their portfolios into other asset classes? What are some hidden gems?
In my personal view, right, portfolio construction depends very much on an investor risk profile. Okay. However, I believe that it's worthwhile for investors to allocate a small portion of their portfolio to Singapore's small and mid-cap hidden gems, which are often present as a overlooked opportunities there. And amidst all these ongoing macroeconomic uncertainties, right, gold price has surged to an all-time high. Okay. Reinforcing its status as a safe haven asset. And given this background, right, investors may also want to consider adding gold exposure to their portfolio. So that's an asset class. And what we are doing so, right, is actually through the SGX listed gold ETF, which provide a very convenient way to track the gold price movement.
I see. Well then, overall, Dan, can local investors be successful in their investments and see great returns without having to explore other foreign markets?
Well, Hongbin, that's a very tricky one. Well, I'm a very strong advocate of the local stock market. I believe it is certainly possible for local investors to achieve good returns without venturing into foreign markets, because SGX offers strong performance across various sectors, like blue chip, which give you stability, growth stocks, like Yang Shipbuilding and the SD Engine, the company that we mentioned earlier. And in the small to mid-cap space, right, we also have some hidden gems, like I mentioned earlier, Oilpack, Centurion, we have moved up significantly. Okay. I think the real question here is, should investors limit themselves to only local stocks? Okay, so in my view, right, I think a well-balanced portfolio that is tailored to one risk profile should ideally include both local and foreign stocks to maximize diversification and opportunities.
I see. Well, regardless, it looks like Singapore is trying to revitalize its equity market. I mean, in an announcement last week, capital markets look set to receive a liquidity boost of a $5 billion investment initiative by a review group led by the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Dan, what did you think of the first set of measures laid out by the Monetary Authority of Singapore Equities Market Review Group?
On a personal note, right, I actually shared this optimistic view. First off, I think the $5 billion is likely to boost liquidity and spark interest from investors in local stocks. Okay, and then we also have the tax rebates for listing and the government backing for local firms that's aiming for IPOs. So this should definitely attract quality new listings. And finally, we also have the streamlining of new regulations, which will probably make the listing process smoother and less of a hassle for potential companies who are looking to list on SGX. So yeah, I'm really on board. In fact, I'm hoping that this is just the beginning of a series of upcoming initiatives.
Well, do you think, Singapore's efforts to revive the equity market will bring more investors, or local investors rather, back to Singapore's stock market?
I would like to think so, because from what I read, right, most industry insiders, right, from analysts to fund to investors, seem to be pretty optimistic about this move. Like even the market is doing well. I mean, SGX has jumped 8.4% this morning before closing at 13.30, which is up about 4%. Okay, it's an indication that local investors are on board as well. So I would like to think that this initiative by this equity market review group certainly have bring some optimism to all the industrial insiders.
I see. And before we let you go here, Dan, what more do you think the government should do in order to bring more investors into the Singapore market?
Well, I mean, in the announcement over the weekend, right, the government did some future plans, like having smaller broad lots, stronger investor protection and custody improvements, and of course cross-border market partnerships. And I think these are all excellent steps in the right direction. But I mean, if I could add my 2 cents worth, right, I would say more road shows, more marketing, and maybe more media exposure, maybe on Money FM for our listed company will really help. I mean, it will give investors a chance to get to know more about our loan company, to know them better, and hopefully get them more interested in investing in them.
I see. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for joining me today.
Thank you, Hongbin, for having me.
Thank you. That was Dan Chang, who is the investment specialist and trading representative at PhillipCapital. This has been the Wealth Tracker with me, Hongbin Jeong.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance. To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.